What do you guys mute this thing? How do I do that? Room control. Nope, that didn't mute it. So what I was gonna ask, while I'm trying to figure out how to mute this thing, is what do you guys do to get ready for class? Right, we got a minute, 22 seconds left. Anybody? What'd you do this morning to get ready for class?
I struggled to roll out of bed.
Struggled to roll out of bed. What time ish?
7.
7. What'd you do this morning to get ready for class?
Put all my stuff in my bag.
Put all your stuff in your bag. What'd you do this morning to get ready for class? One of you talk. I don't really care what you talk. Took a shower. That's a good idea, especially in these not socially distant spaces that we're in now. Many of us probably forgot to shower last year. I shouldn't speak, right? I shouldn't admit things. So, did anybody do anything besides struggle to get out of bed, take a shower, put their stuff in their bag to get ready for class? And I don't mean just this one. I mean just class in general. What stuff did you put in your bag? Over here, somebody. Did you put your stuff in your bag? What stuff do you put in? Ish.
Computer, paper.
Computer. Swear to God, I thought he said beer at first. He said computer. I thought he said beer. Computer, paper. Oh, you took your computer out of your bag, right? So you can pop that open. You can take notes if you want to. Who has something with them today to take notes with? Who intends to use it? Okay. Just checking. I used to know a guy that he would not start teaching unless everybody had a piece of paper in front of them and a pencil in their hand. And if you didn't bring something to take notes with, he would tell you to leave, because what's the point of being in the class if you're not going to pay attention, take notes? I found, and you don't have to admit this if you don't want to, but I found when I was a student that I was pretty good at taking notes, especially for the first half of the term. I never opened my notebook again. I mean, other than the next day to take notes again. And that, for a while, that bothered me, because I'd see my roommates and my friends, and they'd be studying their notebooks, getting ready for tests. And I just never did that. But I also found that just the act of writing it down, it creates, and actually I've since studied sort of brain science a little bit, and actually that act of writing it down, that act of noting it, creates different neural pathways, and it helps you remember it whether or not you ever go back and look at it. I'm not the jerk that would make you leave the room if you're not taking notes. So if you feel like it's important, you should take notes. If you don't feel like it's important, it's still early in the term and you could find a different class. Or maybe just I'm not saying anything useful. What are we talking about today? Quality in manufacturing. Oh, it's going to start the thing again. Come on. I don't want to start the video. I want to go to the next slide. There we go. This next slide is very informative. You guys all ready to take notes? Oh, so what do I do to get ready for class? Well, one, I try to remember what the class is about. 2, I try to be awake. 3, I try to be full of energy so that I can move around and I don't, well, Actually, it's easier for me because I don't have to sit. So it's harder for me to fall asleep when I'm up here than it is for you guys to fall asleep when you're out there. But I try to be energetic enough for all of us so that you guys don't have to fall asleep. And I listen to music. So I get some tunes going in my head so that I can feel inspired to give a good lecture. And I did struggle to roll out of bed this morning, but it was at 4:55 because I want to be here by 6 to make sure I have a 2-hour block to prepare for today's lecture. So, anyways, here we are. Which car manufacturer offers the highest quality? Do you guys think you have an opinion? You don't have to shout it out, but do you have an opinion? No? All right, if I give you some choices, could you pick? I got Mercedes, Kia, and Chevrolet. Now you must choose. Choose one of these three. Which one offers the best quality? If you choose Mercedes, go to that corner of the room. Everybody stand up. If you choose Kia, go to that corner of the room. And if you're a Chevy person, come right down here in the center. Pick a spot. This is the other trick to make sure you guys don't fall asleep during lecture. Everybody, it seems lopsided Mercedes, right? Is it the Mercedes corner?
Yeah.
Is there anybody that's trying to go to the Kia corner? All right, so I get one Kia fan. That you're going to Mercedes? Really? Nobody's down here with me in the Chevys? You're here for the Chevys?
I don't know these cars. Not either.
Really? Mercedes Benz? Never heard of it?
Well, I mean, the commercials I skip.
Yeah. All right, so literally no opinion. That's fair. It's fair to not have an opinion. But we see, really, all the way down here is Mercedes? All the way up and around. I've been doing this slide in this lecture for 5-6 years. I have never seen such a lopsided group. Too much Netflix, huh? Too much TV over. I have. I have owned a Mercedes. I have owned a Chevy. Look at that. Well, I was at the dealer more often with the Mercedes. But that's because what's the point of going to the Chevy dealer? They're just going to break it worse. All right. You guys are confident this is where you want to be? Who's over here with Kia? Two of you? Okay. You're running away from the Kia guys. Why'd you pick Kia?
Well, I didn't pick Chevy because they do a lot of Monday. I can't speak. They do bad advertising because they make a bunch of fake awards, and they've also been known to.
Jeez, I didn't know they did that. That's a pretty good idea.
It's like a JD Power Award stuff.
Like, I am the best professor at WPI, according to my mother.
Exactly. And then I guess like highest quality is subjective. Like Mercedes definitely, it's a higher, it's more expensive. You get like leather seats.
Okay,
whatever.
but you like Kia because you don't like.
Well, the problem is they break down a lot. As you say, you went to the dealer more, and that's kind of quality.
Well, the longest trip to the dealer was when my girlfriend spilled the iced coffee over the electronic shift module that controlled the. Yeah. I think it was pretty stupid to put the cup holder right above the electronic shift module myself. I think it was a design flaw. You picked Kia also?
Yeah.
Any different reasons?
I've heard quite a few manufacturing problems about Chevy. Like,
Okay.
I didn't want to 100% commit to the Mercedes group.
Okay. So you figured you'd pick a not U.S. manufacturer, but not 100% commit. Point Sebago. Why'd you pick Mercedes?
I feel like it's just, it's like the best experience.
See, all right, cool. You guys can stay standing for just a minute. In 2017, JD Power did an initial quality study. And so JD Power was not making up fake awards. They make up their very own JD Power awards.
Used, really obscure ones.
Yeah. So So they said that in initial quality, Kia ranked highest in 2017. This may have changed. It's been a few years now. Kia ranked highest, and Mercedes ranked lowest in initial quality. And Chevy was right there in the middle. Anybody want to change spots?
I have a question. How did Chrysler and Mercedes-Benz have more problems than vehicles supplied? They had 102 problems per 100 vehicles.
Yes. Same vehicle could have more than one problem, couldn't it?
Oh. It's not a good sign.
Anybody want to change spots?
Yeah.
All right, you get a few people changing spots. So these are clearly people that are influenced by the media. Right, so you guys, nobody's coming down to the front to Chevy with me? You guys are, actually, do I own a Chevy? No. I did. I have. All right, you guys can sit back down again. What is this JD Power study tell us? So what does this JD Power study tell us? I mean, so it told us that it will influence a handful of you to shift from Mercedes to Kia. So it told us something about the psychology in the classroom today. But what does this actually tell us? Yeah.
How frequently do vehicles have problems?
All right, so it's measuring a frequency of a problem. How do you think a problem is identified? Somebody over here. How do you think a problem is identified in this study? Sensors. It says initial quality study. So you could think sensors, but JD Power didn't put sensors in everybody's new car.
Quality control.
So this is past quality control because these are at the customer. When we talk about quality control or quality assurance, that's usually before it leaves the manufacturing facility.
Isn't there another way to define quality though, other than?
This whole hour is about defining quality, so yes. I agree, yeah.
Would it be at inspection?
So at inspection, like when the state inspects the cars,
Yes, sir.
I do not believe that some of that data may have been included, but that wasn't their primary source. I've actually read the article.
I'm just seeing how many things don't work that are supposed to work.
Who identifies the things that don't work?
In this case, JD Power.
Well, but they don't go around and test drive everybody's car, do they? What JD Power does is they collect data from places, and then they put it together, and they make graphs, and then they make conclusions based on the graphs, and then they sell that information to magazines or Chevrolet to make fake awards. They sell that information to magazines to write articles, or authors write articles about this, and so they're a statistics manipulation company. No, I mean reporting company.
Would it be based off the dealership, like mechanics and the?
Yeah, so if you have a complaint about your car and you bring it back to the dealers keep track of that. They report that information back to the manufacturers. Manufacturers share that information with JD Power. That's how JD Power comes up with this ranking. So now let's think about the data again. 102 of 100 Mercedes sold went back to the dealer and with a complaint. And 72 Kias went back to the dealer with a complaint. Do we actually know anything about quality?
Someone who like can afford a Mercedes versus a Kia might be more inclined to bring it in.
I think that that's true. And I certainly, when I was driving an in-warranty Mercedes, only brought it to the dealer if I had a question, right? So somebody that is more concerned about little problems is more likely to report little problems. So that could definitely be true. Yep.
I'm assuming a Mercedes-Benz owner would be more likely to go to dealership compared to a non-dealership. Just-
Yeah, I think that's true. I think the Mercedes owners were more likely to go to the dealer. Although if the Kia's in warranty, you'd probably bring the Kia back to the dealer too. But I think that the people that bought a $150,000 Mercedes were more concerned about whether or not everything worked the way they expected it to than the people who bought a $20,000 Kia.
Mercedes also makes a bunch of work trucks and industrial equipment that you can't
That's
afford. to have.
True, and I don't know if that was included in this or not.
Okay.
So that could skew the results one way or the other. But what we know is that some people complained about Mercedes and people didn't complain about Kia. I thought it was interesting that nobody picked Chevy, but that's just because it's never happened before to me in this class. All right. So what is quality then? We have some intuitive feeling of what is quality because that's why we arranged ourselves around the room here as we did. But what is quality? Yeah.
Maybe like how well the product meets the customer's expectations.
So how well we meet product So how well the product meets the customer's expectations. Does anybody have something else to say about what is quality? Yes.
You can like measure in metrics, so like the purity for jewelry, like the carat number or the type of cut it has.
So quality describes how well we meet our customers' expectations, and we can measure it
In some cases.
in some cases. Yes.
A quick question about customer expectations. I was looking at Dayca's reviews on Google, and I noticed that it had a lot of 1-star and a lot of 5-star, and it sounded like some people were rating it based on the expectation of college food, and other people were rating it based on the expectation of just generally food. So, like, which expectations there would be more what we're looking for?
So I guess it's the customer, right? And different customers may have different expectations. I love the fact that you were looking up Dayca's reviews online. I'm sure the Chartwell's people will be really happy because it hasn't been Dayca since I was a student here.
Well, I just typed in WTI.
I know. We call it Dayca, and we will continue to call it Dayca for centuries. I hope. That's the part I love about it. Yes.
I feel like quality relates more to performance.
So, all right. So it relates to performance. But all right, so getting back to your initial point. So the expectations are relative to what we're thinking, right? Right. So if I'm expecting it to be bad and it's a little bit better than bad, then I'm excited. If I'm expecting it to be bad and it's bad, I'm happy because I got what I expected, right? Does anybody think that McDonald's makes the best food around? It's possible. Some hands could go up. I know, like my kids might raise their hand, right? So the rest of us don't think McDonald's makes the best food. Who is eating at McDonald's this year? Yeah. Why do we go to McDonald's if we don't think it makes the best food?
We don't always want the best food.
All right, we don't always want the best food.
cheap, easy, and quick.
Cheap, easy, and quick. Is it always cheap, easy, and quick? I don't think it's actually cheap, but
Or it's not cheap, quick.
it feels cheap. We go to McDonald's because we know what we're gonna get. And we always get what we expected when we go there. So we're never surprised when we go there. All right, so relates to performance, it's measurable, but it comes down to these customer expectations all the time, right? Is that true? Quality comes down to customer expectations?
No, like,
No? Somebody says no.
Because customer expectations to like it's a variable, so varies from.
All right, so the problem with quality is customer expectations are variable. Even the same customer doesn't always want the same thing, right? That's a problem if our goal is to run a manufacturing business and we want to deliver quality products. Why would we want to deliver quality products if we were running a manufacturing business? It's intuitively obvious, right? If we don't deliver quality products over some period of time, we will stop to be running a manufacturing business, right? Because we won't survive, we won't succeed in our business. So, but customer expectations can be variable. So it can be problematic. Is there anything else that describes quality to us? Yes.
Presentation and safety.
All right. So things like presentation. Safety. Could be important. Fake awards, right? So presentation is about making fake awards so we seem like we have higher quality. And
I think the quality should be like
you think quality should be exact.
no, I think quality should be like measurable, like something like if you want something to be harnessed and use a machine
So it should be measurable.
and it must be measurable.
Must be measurable. Okay. You say it must be measurable. You say that it depends on customer expectations. And customer expectations are variable. So this makes it hard. Is quality only in the eye of the beholder? Is quality just in the eye of the beholder? Get your hand up.
Material.
So materials will impact quality? But is quality just in the eye of the beholder?
Depends on your amount of influence as a company.
So it depends on my influence as a company.
You can
So
influence them to see something a certain way.
it depends on my ability as a manufacturer to influence the customers about the perceived value. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so does that actually, it lends us to believe that it's just in the eye of the beholder. If I can fool your eyes into believing that it has quality, then it has quality. Yes.
It kind of depends on how you define quality, because if you say if it's a measurable thing, then it's just, is it measured to what you expected it to be or not? So not in that case, it wouldn't be. But
Right.
If you kind of define quality as something that's more like a feeling, or like I feel like this Mercedes has, like, it's a quality product, or I feel like,
Well, and they treat you really nice in the waiting room at the dealership when they're fixing your quality product.
yeah. So in that case, that would be more in the eye of the beholder, because that's an experience to experience. If you get if you get kicked out of the Mercedes place, you're gonna say, hey, this is not a quality experience.
Exactly. So in that case, it's certainly about my experience. Can they measure that?
In some cases.
They can. Sure they can. They can see how many times I come back and buy another Mercedes. They could see if I fill out comment cards and complain about their service. Right, so there are tools to measure stuff like that. It's wishy-washy. It's really hard to measure feelings. Right? But people try to do that. In fact, you could get a whole PhD in measuring people's feelings. I wouldn't want to, because it's hard to measure, right? It's very hard to measure. So quality, we use the word every day, and we think we understand what it means every day when we use the word. But in a manufacturing business, when we're trying to operate a manufacturing company, it needs to mean something specific. If we're trying to measure wishy-washy feelings as a manufacturing company, we're probably never going to make the first part because we're going to be too afraid that we won't be able to hit the quality. So ASQ is, I think it used to stand for American Society for Quality. All of these American things, like you guys ever heard of ASME or ASTM and those things? All of those different groups, ASM is another one that does this. They used to mean American standards and this, or American this and American that. They all decided they wanted to be international organizations. The way to do that was to change their name. ASQ is no longer the American Society for Quality. ASQ is now ASQ, and it's an international organization. See, that's amazing. Just replace American with A. The American Society of Materials had their annual meeting in China a couple years ago because they changed their name to ASM. Anyway, ASQ is a organization. You can join it. You can become a member. It's an organization for quality engineers. And they say in the definition, and so these guys, they created this organization to support manufacturing. The only reason for ASQ to exist is to help quality engineers who work in manufacturing companies. And they say it's a subjective term. They say it's wishy-washy. They say that the characteristics of a product or service bear on its ability to what the heck does this mean? Can somebody read it out loud? I can't say all the words. Yes.
The characteristics of a product or service that bear on its ability to satisfy stated or implied needs.
Does anybody know what that means? Yeah.
It's like the characteristics that are able to satisfy the things that they need to get.
So quality is characteristics of a product that allow it. We had customer expectations up here, right? Customer needs, customer expectations. That's kind of the same thing. I will note that this first definition that ASQ puts out, they stole it word from word from the ISO, International Standards Organization. So in the ISO definition of quality, that's word for word what they say. They also say it's a product or service free of deficiencies. So you say that's a quality product. That means it's free of deficiencies, right? Professor Bergstrom's lecturing is a quality product. That means he never makes mistakes. It's free of deficiencies. That ain't never going to happen. Okay, so ASQ defines quality. So can we paraphrase what they meant? So it's either the thing, the product, so it could be the product that is quality. That doesn't really help us, right? Or, this is stupid. All right. Does quality depend on the customer? Right. As a manufacturing company, would we like quality to be measurable? Because if it's measurable, what can we do? We can control for it, right? If we can measure it, we can control for it. And what's our ultimate goal with respect to quality as a manufacturing company? Yes.
Make as much profit as possible.
I said with respect to quality, though, we do want to make as much profit as possible. Actually, no, as possible. I don't like the term as possible. We want to make all the profit.
You want to make a perfect product.
I disagree. He says we want to make perfect products. I disagree that we want to make perfect products. I'll explain that as we get. Certainly later in the week, we'll talk about that. I'm not sure if we talk about it too much today. But as a manufacturing company, with respect to quality, we don't want to ship crap to our customers, right? If we ship bad stuff to our customers, if we ship stuff to our customers that our customers don't want, we're not going to survive very long as a manufacturing company. Is that a fair statement? Okay. So as a manufacturing company, don't ship crap to your customers. Don't ship junk to your customers. How do we know what our customers want? Oh, all right. How do you know when you have quality? We talked about that, right? We could measure for it. So how do we know what we want to measure?
You can ask
Go ahead.
your customers.
So ask the customer. Yeah. Was that what you were going to say?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So our customer has to tell us what they want for us to make sure that we're going to create quality products. How do they tell us? Yes.
Surveys or about customer experience.
Okay, so we've got a couple different kinds of companies we'll talk about. There's different ways to break up the different kinds of manufacturing companies. The typical one that you'll hear about is small, medium, and large. Large corporations in the United States, by definition from the federal government, have 500 or more employees. Small and medium-sized companies have 500 or fewer employees. This is a big range, 1 to 500, right, for company size. Most manufacturing that happens in the United States happens in small to medium-sized companies. 80%, it's something like 90% of manufacturing happens in small and medium-sized companies. Something like 80% of those companies are less than 50 employees. So most manufacturing in the United States happens at really small companies. What happens, and they're distributed around the country. And what happens is, say you are General Motors, and you need a part that you need a seatbelt. You need a seatbelt assembly to go in your Chevy Suburban. Do they still make those? They make something large like that if it's not a Suburban, right? So you need a seatbelt assembly. I have a company that makes little brackets that could go in seatbelt assemblies, or I'm at least capable of making them. And so you're General Motors. You have the contract to supply seatbelt assemblies to General Motors, but you don't have all the time and machines to make all the parts in the seatbelt assembly. So you hire my company to make some brackets. You hire their company to make some other components. You hire this guy to install the explosives. Guess no seatbelts have explosives in them. A lot of them do. It's pretty cool. You know, like when you slam on the brakes and you want to not have your face hit the airbag because the airbag's about to deploy. Your car senses that, fires explosive spring-loaded bolts that retract the seatbelt straps and pull you back against the seat before you hit the airbag. It's really cool stuff. VW had a problem with their explosive bolts causing fires in the cars after they went off. So you got to be careful when you design it. But that was not quality. All right. So anyway, so General Motors has a specification for seatbelt assemblies. You've agreed that you can supply those seatbelt assemblies. You give me a drawing for the little bracket you want me to make. On the drawing, you've got a set of specifications. I say, yes, I can make them. You say, are you sure? We need 500 of them a week. And I say, yes, I can make 500 a week. And then we enter into a purchase order agreement. We have a contract between us. Part of the contract is how many I'm going to deliver, when I'm going to deliver them, and the characteristics of the thing I'm going to deliver as defined by the drawing and specifications that you gave me. Right? So does that make sense? That's how we do business. That's how everything in the world gets made. Pretty much. Well, except for the stuff that people make for themselves. Okay? So how do we know when we have quality? We know when we have quality when we're able to deliver to the customer what they need on time so that they can deliver it to their customer on time. So quality in manufacturing is giving the customer what they need when they quality manufacturing is giving the customer what they need when they need it. That's all it is. How you decide what they need is by asking the customer. It's an interaction between yourself and the customer. And if we're lucky, the customer gives us specifications. And the specifications have tolerances on them. So the tolerances are how much we're allowed to screw up, in how much variation we're allowed to have in what we give them. So giving the customer what they need when they need it. What happens when you don't do that? Yes.
You say you breached the contract?
So you may be in breach of contract. What happens then? Yes.
You have to go to court.
You may end up in court.
So they may not pay for.
That's the first thing that happens. They don't pay you. So if manufacturing is making stuff with the intent to sell it, right? That's what we covered on Thursday last week. Manufacturing is making stuff with the intent to sell it. If we make stuff with the intent to sell it, we ship it to our customer and the customer says, this isn't what we wanted. Not only do they not pay us for it, they may charge us money for the fact that we sent them bad stuff. They may require us to come take it away and pay for shipping back. They may charge us a disposal fee and they throw it away and we have to pay for it. They may decide that it's okay and use it anyway, but not pay us because it didn't meet the specifications. It's not and that's when we end up in court usually, right? Suing your customers is not a good way to stay in business. So it's really hard to go after them for non-payment. But this is why we do quality control, quality assurance. This is why we have measurement standards. What time is it? Okay, some of you looked like you were getting ready to go. Maybe I'm just getting boring. I was afraid that I was running out of time. Okay. Some of that, so quality manufacturing is giving our customers what they need when they need it. In order to do that, we need to know exactly what it is they need, right? So part of it's on the customer. They have to tell us what they need. Part of it's on us. We have to be able to measure what they've asked for and make sure that we've made it the way they need it. And then we ship it to them, then they pay us, then they order more, and we stay in business and we go on like this, right? So if that's all pretty clear, right? What happens if I measured it, I think it's a good part, and I send it to you, and because you're my customer, right? I'm making brackets, you're making seatbelt assemblies.
Yeah, I have the contract.
Yeah, you had the contract with GM?
Yeah.
Right. What happens if I make the part, you accept the part, put it in your seatbelt assembly, send it to GM, and then GM doesn't accept it because I said my part was out of spec? So what do you do when you receive parts from me? So you're the customer now. I'm the manufacturer, you're the customer, even though you are a manufacturing company. What do you do when you receive parts from me if I'm a sub vendor to you? Doesn't have to be just her to answer. Somebody knows.
Check it.
You check the incoming stuff, right? So when you get stuff, you check to make sure it's any good. That's when you decide whether or not you're going to pay me. Okay? What happens if I measured it, I think it's good, you measured it and you said it's no good? Yeah.
I think that means you're wrong.
It may mean that I'm wrong, right? And that's from the feeling that the customer is always right,
I mean, if
right? We've all heard that. All growing up, we've all heard the customer's always right.
If they're not gonna pay for it, then doesn't that mean you need to up the quality?
Well, it certainly means that we don't have a good communication, right? Because it means that I don't understand exactly what they want. And it means that I haven't measured it the way they wanted me to measure it.
Or they're trying to rip you off.
Or they're trying to rip me off. It is perfectly okay to fire your customers. You just won't work with them anymore. I had when is the best time to figure out if my measurement isn't the same as your measurement? Before I've shipped all 500 parts, right? So it's good to know before I've shipped all 500 parts. So I had my company had a contract once. It was a $200,000 purchase order. It was for 500 pieces, so you can figure out the per part cost. Except the first $25,000 of the purchase order was to deliver the first part, because it was a difficult to machine material. Nobody had ever made this part before. The designers weren't even really certain anybody could make the part. So the first $25,000 was to figure out how to make one. And then the rest, $175,000, was to deliver 500 of them over time. We had 3 weeks to make the first one, and then they wanted 10 a week after that. We were almost finished with, and so when you do something like this, you make a feature, you measure it. You check to make sure it's okay, right? You don't just make the whole part and then say, hey, this is good enough. Because also the workpiece material was really expensive. They supplied the workpiece material, so I didn't have to worry about that part of it. We were almost done. We had one feature left to put on the part. I called up the engineer and I said, well, we're having trouble understanding the tolerances on this feature on the part, because the way you specified it in the drawing, it's impossible to make. Right? You've specified like a negative radius. So if you want it to be a radius, then give us a different tolerance, or we just won't put the radius there. There was some other things about it I wanted to ask. And the answer was, what do you mean? That feature's not on the part. $200,000 purchase order. They sent us the wrong drawing. So the customer's not always right, but you have to be polite to the customer when you're explaining to them that they're wrong. We actually managed to save that part. There was still enough material left on the part to make what they wanted instead of what they asked for. And that's why I say give the customers what they need instead of what they ask for in this statement. It's important as manufacturers, as engineers, and you guys will get a lot of this as you're entering the workforce. Oftentimes you'll be on the customer side of this, and you will have made the design that didn't make sense and sent it to the manufacturing company. If you have a dialogue with the people that are going to make the part and they know you're open to discussion, there's a couple things that they can help you with. One, if you made a stupid mistake, like sending them the wrong drawing or sending them a drawing with an impossible feature, they may call you and you could work it out before your boss finds out and you could fix it. Sometimes that helps. But also, it allows them to offer you suggestions if there's a cheap. So if you could change the design just a little bit, wouldn't affect the performance, and it cost half as much to make. It'd be nice to know that, right? So especially when you get in the workforce, if you're that young designer, make sure you're having conversations with the people that are going to be making the stuff. So tomorrow, we're going to talk about this topic of quality. We're going to talk about it as it affects companies that do what I call high mix manufacturing. So I sort of segment manufacturing into high mix manufacturing and high volume manufacturing. And it may not mean exactly what it sounds like it means, but this high mix manufacturing is stuff like me making brackets for her company to ship to GM. So she ordered 500 of these little brackets. I make 500 of these little brackets. I ship them to her. They're good brackets. She ships them to GM in the assembly that she's making. And maybe in 6 months, she's going to order another 500 brackets. But in the meantime, I'm making little mirror assemblies that go on the SpaceX rockets. Or I'm also making I can't talk about that one. Actually, I probably shouldn't talk about the SpaceX one either, but that's okay. That's a job while I'm gone. But I have a lot of different customers. They have a lot of different parts. We make a lot of different things for them. That's high mix because day to day, I may be making the same part 2 days in a row. But the third day, I'm setting up to make a different part. This is high mix. We're frequent changeovers. Often we call that a job shop environment where there's lots of different customers. You're making a lot of different parts. In a high volume manufacturing facility, now the same company could do high mix and high volume, right? So it doesn't have to be a different company to be doing something different. But in high volume, it means you've got the same machine set up day after day, doing the same process, making the same part for a long period of time. And so you can think that doing quality control in those two different environments is pretty different. There's a company they're not in Worcester. They're very close, 20-minute drive from here. I forget which town it is. We did a MQP with them a few years ago. They had 7 machines, all the same model number machine tool. All of them making the same part with the same program. They had a 50% difference between the time the fastest machine took and the slowest machine took. All of them using the same program, same model number machine. The MQP's job was to figure out why. And so they did a bunch of that. They figured out that the servo motors were tuned differently. There's a whole bunch of stuff about why it was. 7 machine tools running 24 hours a day, all making the same part. That's high volume manufacturing. That's what we're going to talk about. What else? Lab. 25% of you had lab yesterday, except for one person that's on the roster wasn't there. The other 75% of you have lab today. Some of you starting in 5 minutes or 15 minutes, right? Okay, so when you get to lab, have shoes on that cover your feet. Have safety glasses with you that are ANSI rated safety glasses. I don't know about shoes, but they have safety glasses at the bookstore. Also bring your lab kit. What else? Okay, so the way labs are going to work, and I explained it so the people that were there yesterday know this, but we've got computer assignments in the lab where you're learning how to program the machine tools. And we've got at the machine assignments in the lab where you're running the machine to learn how to run the machine tools. Everybody, each lab will have 35 minutes in front of a machine tool. The rest of that time, you'll be in the computer lab working on the computer assignments. I think by the end of this week, I want you to have gone through chapter 3 in getting started with CAM for milling. It's not as bad as it sounds. Chapter 1 and chapter 2, you pretty much just read, and you don't have to be in the lab to do that. Currently, the CAM software that we're using, Esprit, is on campus only available in our lab. They're going to spread it out to, I think, the library and some online servers and stuff as the term rolls on. You can download, if you have a Windows PC, you can download it on your computer and run it at home as long as you use the VPN to connect to get a license. So you do that. You should have enough time in lab to finish the in-lab CAM assignments. We also do help hours on Wednesdays and Fridays, and so there'll be people in the lab to help out with CAM assignments. When you get to lab today, you'll get a card with a number on it. When you get into the computer classroom, there'll be instructions on the board for what to write on that card, but basically it's going to be a record of you finishing the lab assignments and when you're supposed to be at the machine tools. I will see you guys all tomorrow morning here, unless you're in physics lecture tomorrow morning, in which case, watch the video. Oh, you can watch it live from your physics lecture. That might be confusing.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.